Microphone around a lot. Hey everybody, welcome to our first ALF training webinar. And in these webinars, we're going to talk about ALF operations and different functions. On the webinar with me is Cheryl Stockstill, my beautiful wife.
Thank
And
you.
person helps me run the facility that we have and is also our ALF core trainer and somebody who knows a lot about surveys and inspections, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
So some of these videos, we're going to try to keep them to about 20 to 30 minutes or less, depending on the length of each survey that we go through. We really like to go through other people's surveys because we're nosy, and you get to see um, how people got cited and for what reasons. Isn't that something that is helpful?
Right, and it helps you improve your business too, and see what are the common mistakes and what people are doing, and how to correct them, and what could have been done to prevent it.
Right. Um, so I'm going to open up the screen share. I'm going to share with you the survey that we're going to look at. Of course, we've withheld all of the information, but I'll let Cheryl take it from here, okay? So we've cut off the top of the survey so you can't see the facility name.
Right, because we're not here to bash other facilities because we all make mistakes, but this is just a learning opportunity. And this facility had a complaint inspection, so someone had called in a complaint on the facility. It looks like the complaint wasn't substantiated, otherwise it would be the comments right underneath the complaint inspection would say whether the complaint was validated or not. But upon their inspection, they found deficiencies. So they got cited for some deficiencies. The first one was under resident care and supervision, which is, these deficiencies and tags are very broad, and a lot of things fall under them. So if you read down, it's just basically supervising the residents and monitoring the quality of care and their diets and daily observation by the staff, awareness of the general health and safety and physical and emotional well-being, general awareness of the residents' whereabouts, whether they can travel independently in the community, and contacting the healthcare provider and appropriate parties such as the family guardian, doctor, etc. And also keeping good written records and updating them. That falls under that too.
Right,
On to page number 2 right now. And
page 2.
so under the resident care, broad thing, they found that at this facility the rule was not met, and here's the evidence right now. So what they did was they did a sample of 1 of 8 residents sampled. So they sampled 8 residents, and one of the residents, which is resident number 5, which is what they named them, they received medications improperly. And so what the findings were was they went ahead and audited the medication record for resident number 5, and it revealed the resident did not get their 2 p.m. dose of medication on April 5th and April 6th. So they further went in and reviewed control substance sheets and the prescription labels that were dated. The medication was dated from 2/13 and from 3/13/2013. Then methadone 10 milligrams, take every 8 hours. So they weren't given the medication every 8 hours. So further investigation, they found that resident number 5 revealed on certain days the medication was not given as ordered, and it was given before the 8 hours on some days and only 2 times a day. So they went ahead and audited all the MORs. You can look starting from March 2013 going up until April 2013. So it looks like they audited the MORs for 2 months. And on various days they found that the medication wasn't given properly. It wasn't given as scheduled. It wasn't given 3 times a day or every 8 hours. It wasn't given 8 hours apart. So it wasn't given correctly. And that's pretty a big one. For 2 months of not catching that as the resident director, the nurse, whoever audits the medication, I think that's pretty bad. If you, as a facility, owner, operator, manager, nurse, whatever your title is, if you just go and you audit the medications every day, audit the MORs and look for blank spaces and then question the staff whether, why they weren't given a medication at a certain time, and you'll find out what's going on. This, in my opinion, went way too far.
Do you think, Cheryl, in this situation, what do you think happened from reading it? Do you think that they just didn't even write it in properly in the beginning, or do you think that it was written in properly but it wasn't being followed? I can't discern that. What do you think?
Well, I think it was vague. So I think the problem is it's methadone, 10 milligrams, take every 8 hours. Instead of scheduling times, I think they just left it as every 8 hours. So, leaving it up to the whoever's doing the med pass and med techs or CNAs to figure out the 8-hour gap. So that's where the breakdown there. I like to personally just schedule it. So every 8 hours, I would start it at 7 a.m. Go to
Plus
another
8 hours, plus 8 hours, right? The times.
What was it? Be 7? What was it? 7, 3, and 8 or something?
Yeah,
or
something like that. Yeah.
I would just schedule, put times on there every 8 hours. Then it's clear. It's not something that's going to be missed. To me, it just seems like there's nobody auditing it. They would have caught that. And I also mean by auditing, not just looking at the MORs, but at our facility once a week we go through the med boxes and we read every prescription bottle or blister card and we match it back to the MOR and make sure that the directions are correct, nothing's changed, there's no gaps, and there's nothing missed, because even the best facilities that do audits all the time, they still miss things. It's just going to happen. But if you're auditing your medication records all the time, you'll catch these things and it won't be as big of a deal. So when they asked the resident care director that on April 23rd, 2013 at 3 p.m. that the medications were not given as ordered and not given at the right times, so the resident care director did state, agree with that. So they got a Class 3 deficiency violation. And then what they'll have to do is they'll come back and re-inspect the facility, and they'll go through medication records to make sure that medications are given properly at the correct time, and they're given properly. If they're not, then they can get a fine, they can get more deficiencies and different things.
Hey, Cheryl, are you moving your computer around a little bit? Because it's got a lot of feedback. Or your microphone or something. Okay, all right.
Maybe.
Right, so they'll come back. And I think we didn't print the follow-up, but I think I saw that it was corrected.
Right. I mean, most places correct them.
Right.
You don't have to.
Right, so let's see. You want to go into the next one now? Medication records?
Medication records. So, of course, they're going to get tagged again for medication records because they were obviously not keeping good records and they weren't giving the medication properly. So it's still back with resident number 5. And they just found they tagged them for not giving the medication properly and not following the MOR. Because they found that the MOR, the medication wasn't given daily at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 10 p.m., so they weren't given the medication properly. And they weren't documenting that properly. On certain days, the medication wasn't given as ordered, and sometimes it was only given twice a day instead of 3 times a day. And the MOR wasn't marked properly and signed off on. So right there, it's records. You're going to get a record tag, too, because you're not keeping good records and proper records.
Yeah, actually it says here that their MOR noted that the medication was given daily at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 10 p.m. So they did have the times. And upon further review of the controlled substance sheets for resident number 5 revealed on certain days the medications were not given as ordered and were given before the 8 hours, and on some days only 2 times a day as follows, and the MOR was marked as the medication was given at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 10 p.m.
Right, so
so it sounds like they weren't checking to make sure it was being followed properly.
Right. I mean, that's an even bigger
That's
mistake.
an easier fix, for sure.
Yeah, it went on for 2 months, but I mean, seriously, the times are marked. You should have caught that within a day or two. You know, I always ask my staff to go back through too and just double check your work. You know, medication's really important to make sure. But this is a larger community. They have, you know, maybe 100+ beds. So I know it's a little bit harder than, you know, just a, you know, small manageable place, 20, 30 people. But
they have dedicated staff for that.
sure, I'm sure they do.
But this, like, for example, it says that. Okay. How do you think the surveyor knew? Because it said that they were giving it sometimes before the 8 hours. Like, do you think they were writing the times in there as well? Like they wrote, oh, given at 7:30 or given it. You know how you do for PRNs, you write the time that you gave it. Or do you think that maybe they were doing an observation and they saw the caregiver giving it to them at a different time?
No, they just audited that person's files, records. So when they choose their sample, they'll go through their resident file and medication file. So it could have just been random.
Yeah. Yeah, because it said that they were given before the 8 hours and on some days only 2 times a day as file. So yeah, I'm sure there were a couple of clues there that tipped the surveyor off.
Right. It could have been part of the complaint too. We're not really sure.
But just to give you an idea of how stickler, look at this. I mean, it was the scheduled medication. It was supposed to be given at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 10 p.m. On March 16th, the medication was given at 9:30 p.m. Right, so that's bedtime, 30 minutes before the 10 p.m. The next dose was not given until the next day at 10 a.m. So there was given 30 minutes early and then 2 hours late. The next dose was given at 2 p.m., which would be too early because it was 8 hours. 4 hours, only 4 hours later. The next dose was given at 9:30 again. So I think they were probably just doing the med passes around 10. So they were pretty sticklers for that. I assume
but not following doctor's orders.
Yeah, wouldn't you assume that maybe this was a electronic record, and then when they clicked off on that they gave it, it recorded the time? Yeah.
That would make sense.
A paper record wouldn't be that detailed.
No, you're right. So paper records sometimes a little more archaic, but yeah, no.
But you know, that's a good point, that if you're using, you know, electronic records, that, you know, these, especially controlled,
you can fall through the cracks.
Yeah, you might just need to assign somebody separate to go do it, or be sure that they understand that it needs to be given at that time. So yeah. Yeah, they did it again, so it was given at 10 p.m. and then the next dose was not given until 7 a.m. 9 hours. 7 hours. 9 hours. Okay. So yeah, they were checking all this stuff. Okay, next thing. The resident care director stated on 423.
Oh no, we're past actually. Staffing standards.
Okay, staffing standards.
Staffing standards. You know, you have to have a certain amount of staffing hours for residents, and you need to adjust it as people move in or people move out. And you have to be careful who you count in those staffing hours, because they have to be doing direct care and care of the residents, not the plumber, the maintenance guy, stuff like that. So those things are all in 58A, who can and who can't be. But staffing standards, they got in trouble for this. And let's see what happened. I'm scrolling down because it's a very long, falls under a very long category. So it says that this facility did not meet the staffing standards rule, and the evidence was based on facility record review and interview. The facility failed to maintain a written work schedule which reflected its 24-hour staffing pattern for a given time period. That is so easy to do too. But it seems like they were digging around at the facility this time. I mean, they reviewed the records, they checked everything, so they were looking for staff, and it's easy. You post your schedule, have it available, reflecting, that you have 24-hour staff and who's working. So
And then save them for what, 6 months or so?
save them for 6 months. And when there's changes, make sure you change the names of the shifts when the people call in sick, or change shifts and different stuff, because they need to match your time cards and stuff too if they audit them. For facilities larger than 17.
Yeah, they said the resident care supervisor stated on the administrator was on sick leave since approximately February 26th, and that she and the administrator worked at times and excess of over 40 hours weekly, and would like the hours to be counted towards the staff hour requirement. Review of the staff facility schedule at the time revealed that in February, March, and April, schedules listed the administrator by name, but made no indication that she was out on sick leave. The schedules did not list that the resident care didn't list the resident care supervisor. So they admitted that the schedules weren't accurate. So see, they had blanks where they wanted to count the administrator hours. Or no, what was it that they wanted to count? The
administrator
extra
was out and listed on the schedule, so they're not counting her hours because she's out. But the resident care supervisor is saying, hey, I worked those hours, and I worked excess of 40 hours, so count my hours.
Yeah.
But you have to document everything, so they should have documented it. And even if it's a mistake they caught now, they could have already had documented that, these 3 months the administrator was out, the resident care supervisor worked. They should be documenting their hours, extra hours, over hours. That way they
Well, it sounds like what happened here is that the surveyor didn't even know that the administrator was out on sick leave for 3 months or whatever that was. And but the real problem was that they didn't have 24-hour staffing pattern. And then yeah, it just sounds like they were short, and they were trying to say that these supervisors were working extra hours and that should be counted, but it was nowhere on the schedule or nowhere indicated. So
right.
Yeah, you got to have a paper trail, and like what Cheryl does, for example, even when we have sick leave and we have to use a staffing agency or something like that, we'll put in agency on those shifts that people were out sick, and then we'll like staple a receipt to the back of it or keep it with the file.
We're overstaffed all the time, though.
Well, that's true. That's never a problem.
Our hours, like we have so many caregivers on staff at one given time that we exceed the minimum hours by, double or something. I remember a surveyor coming once to give me a tip and, to cut staff because we had too many. But, I mean, that's crazy. Like, what kind of advice is that? We give great care. But we don't even have to count our hours because we're properly staffed, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's just how we choose to run it. But I think so. That was that. It looks like how many citations? How many tags did they get? They got 3 tags.
Well, actually, probably like 10 deficiencies out of there because
they tag them a couple times for each,
tags
right?
are on the side, like AO79. Yeah. Well, I guess those are just 3 separate tags.
AO79, AO79,
Or
AO79, yep.
54.
So it's,
have a
they repeat them 54, 54, 54, 54, and 25. So 3.
3.
Yep, 3 tags. So, but,
Funny.
There still means they're going to come back. It's still... Those were things that look like they could have been prevented. With documentation and then the medication. That one is a hard one. I mean, you have the staff, they need to get them the medication, they need to get them in bed, they need to... But if your facility has a designated medication person, then that is something that could be fixed. I mean, our facility doesn't, so they wear many hats, and so...
You can also have your overnight staff auditing medication too, because generally those, the nights are quieter than the daytime too. So if you have somebody trusted overnight, that's a good, have them go through the boxes too.
Yeah, but a once a week audit would have caught a lot of these things. And once a month, the schedule would be a once a month audit, and really it's just like make sure the time cards are there, make sure the schedules match up, and some of those would have been avoided. So Well, I don't really know what the complaint was. Was it a complaint? What do
Right,
you
it
think
was
the
a
complaint?
complaint.
But it didn't say what the complaint was.
No, no, it usually doesn't sometimes,
Yeah.
unless they
Okay.
find, it could have just been anything. Could have been just a family calling in upset or an employee,
Right.
and then they go in full inspection mode and find other things.
Yeah. Because it doesn't state that. It just says they found deficiencies. So I can't see somebody complaining about maybe the staffing. I mean,
Possibly.
no, because the somebody complaining about the medication. I guess, yeah. I guess if a family member had medication scheduled at certain times and
You never know.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, listen, this has been a great beginning. It's our first of many, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on the Google Plus page, and you'll get all of our survey reviews and a lot of other great things. And also training. Don't forget about our training, Cheryl. You want to touch on that?
Right, mylftraining.com. We have several different options for training. We have the initial ALF Core 26-hour course to become an administrator, and I'm saying this as January 2015 because a couple of years that might be different or change, who knows? But we have the basic 26-hour course, and then we also have an upgraded consulting course for those of you who are opening a facility or thinking about it. We have an additional, on top of the 26-hour state mandated course, you have an additional, what is it, 13 or 14
13 hours of
hours of
us. Hmm.
walking you through it, telling you how to set up, how to get business, what you can expect from running a facility, which is fantastic, and a lot of great information there. We have
Yeah,
dealt.
the price for the consulting package and the core training, it was very important to us. We wanted to give you it at almost the same price it would cost you to go to another instructor, but we give you everything. And if you go to another on-site trainer to take the core training, and you ask them, how do you get your business? How much? What are your expenses? They'll say, well, listen, that's not part of core training. You can hire me as a consultant. Come see me after class, and they'll want to charge you $2,000 or $3,000 or more. And but we wanted to give it all to you. So we have a base price for core training if you don't need all that other stuff, which is lower than everybody else, and then the upgraded package, which we give it all away. So. But that's it for now. MyALFtraining.com, and follow us on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Bye, thanks. Have a good day.